She was only 17 when the world she knew vanished into a storm. A single seatbelt, a flash of lightning, and a fall from the sky changed everything. This is the true story of Juliane Koepcke, the girl who fell from 10,000 feet and lived. It was Christmas Eve, 1971. Flight Lanza 508 was packed with holiday travelers, flying from Lima to Pucallpa, Peru. Juliane sat beside her mother, Maria, both smiling, excited to return home after attending Juliane's graduation ceremony. Her father waited for them at their research station deep in the Amazon rainforest. Outside, clouds had begun to gather. Lightning flashed in the distance. The plane climbed into the storm. Passengers tightened their seatbelts as turbulence shook the cabin. Juliane remembered her mother's calm voice. "It will be over soon." But it wasn't. A bolt of lightning struck the aircraft. There was a deafening explosion, and in an instant, the plane broke apart midair. Juliane felt herself ripped from her seat, spinning violently through the storm, still strapped in her row of 3 seats. Then, everything went black. When she opened her eyes, she was lying in the middle of the Amazon jungle. The roar of insects filled her ears. She looked around. There was no plane, no people, no sound of engines. Only the endless forest canopy and the pain in her body. She had fallen 10,000 feet, and somehow, she was alive. Her collarbone was broken. One eye was swollen shut. Her right arm barely moved. And yet, she could breathe. She could move. She could think. Juliane's first thought wasn't about herself. It was about her mother. She called out, over and over, "Mama." No answer came. Only the echo of her own voice, swallowed by the forest. Hours turned into night. The jungle came alive with sounds she had never heard before. Shrieks, rustling, and the endless hum of insects. She lay still, terrified. The rain poured down, and she drifted in and out of consciousness. The next morning, she began to move. Juliane had grown up in the Amazon. Her parents were both biologists, and she had spent years learning about the forest. That knowledge, the one thing no one could have predicted would matter, was now her only chance of survival. She found a small stream and decided to follow it. Her father had once told her, "Where there's water, there's civilization." So she began walking. Each step was agony. Her shoes were gone, one sandal lost in the fall. She used the other to test the ground ahead, making sure there were no snakes. The jungle floor was wet, slippery, and covered in leeches. Days passed. She survived on rainwater and small candies she found in her pocket. She kept following the stream, even when it turned into a river. Her mind began to play tricks on her. Sometimes she thought she heard voices, her mother's voice calling her name. Other times she felt like she was walking in circles. But she refused to give up. She had been raised to respect the forest, not fear it. She knew which plants could poison her, and which ones might help. She stayed close to the water, drank from it carefully, and avoided eating anything unknown. By the 4th day, infection had set in. Her arm was covered in maggots. Her wounds were swollen, and she was weak from hunger. Still, she kept walking. On the 10th day, she saw something strange. A small boat pulled up to the riverbank. At first, she thought it was a hallucination, but it was real, and near it, she saw a small hut. Inside, she found gasoline used by local loggers. Juliane remembered how her father once treated wounds by pouring gasoline to kill maggots. With trembling hands, she did the same. The pain was unbearable, but it worked. She lay inside the hut, barely conscious, waiting for someone to come. The next morning, she heard voices, real ones this time. 3 men had returned to their camp. When they saw her thin, dirty, covered in insect bites, they were stunned. At first, they thought she might be a spirit of the jungle. But Juliane spoke to them in Spanish, explaining what had happened. The men took her into their boat and traveled for hours down the river. They brought her to a nearby village, and from there, to a hospital. 11 days after the crash, Juliane Koepcke was the only survivor of Flight 508. Out of 92 passengers and crew, she was the single life that the jungle spared. When rescuers later found the wreckage, they discovered that her mother had also survived the initial crash, but was too injured to move. She died a few days later. Juliane learned this much later, after being reunited with her father. In the years that followed, Juliane struggled with nightmares and survivor's guilt, but she also found purpose. She followed in her parents' footsteps, becoming a biologist, dedicating her life to studying the rainforest that had once almost killed her.